Hi everybody. We're gonna wait for a couple minutes to let some more people in. Welcome to those of you who have joined us. Do we have Carla yet?
No Carla yet.
Okay.
So hi everybody. I'm Susie Nitzel and I'm facilitating the new Employee Equity Academy Day 1 of your orientation. So I need a favor from a couple of you. There's somebody on the call and it's AGL and I need to know your name.
It's Herman. Herman Laufer.
German?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it might be you. Okay.
Yes, good morning.
And I know who Amy is. And I'm guessing TH, is that Timothy Hahn?
Yes, that's
perfect. It's for it's administrative stuff that I do after that's completely unimportant and boring to you. But thank you.
Susie, I'm letting people in if you haven't noticed.
Fabulous. Okay, Carla is here. And we're at 28, and we had 28 signed up, so we'll probably get a few stragglers, but we can go ahead and start. Gary, go for it.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. So, Susie, do we want to look at the agenda really quick for today, and then we'll get started going into our breakout rooms. So we had to rearrange a little bit because our president has a very busy schedule, and she's going to welcome you this morning. But that's not going to be until 9:30. So we're going to start with our, what originally was going to be our breakout session at 9:30. We're going to get into that right now. We're going to do a scavenger hunt. So Susie is going to, you're going to go to your breakout rooms, and then we'll come back here after. So we'll see you all in a little bit.
Oh, hold on. It did not set the breakout rooms.
Do you want me to talk a little bit about the agenda?
Yeah, talk a little bit about the agenda, Carrie. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to do our scavenger hunt, and then we're going to have a welcome and thoughts about equity from Dr. Goldsmith Ray, our Director of Student Equity and Success. And then we have some guest speakers from institutional research and who are going to talk to us about who our students are and how we gather information from our students and listen to them and their needs and their how we're serving them. Then we're going to have a little break, and after that we'll do some what you need to know in the first 3 weeks of the semester, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end.
Okay, I'm putting you into your breakout rooms.
All right.
So you'll see a little pop-up and then you just join. Oh. Looks like people are back.
We're back from our breakout.
Hi, welcome back.
Hello, I learned a lot from our people.
Did you?
I did.
Good.
I learned some really cool ways to navigate the website. Susie, I was also thinking, since we have a couple minutes, I was having, I asked them things that they thought were confusing about the website and finding stuff, what might be confusing to students. So I jotted down some notes, and I think that might be helpful feedback on one of the surveys. So when you were doing the scavenger hunt, that might be something good in terms of helping us with the website.
Ooh, yeah, huh? Yeah, I need to start recording again since we're, or wait. No, I think we've been recording the whole time, Carol. Oh, shoot.
You can edit later.
I know, but I just hate doing it.
Were you talking about me?
We were talking about you. No, we're talking about convocation. Okay.
Yeah, because when I came back in, it said this meeting is being recorded.
Okay. So I've just closed the last breakout room. Well, I know what I'll be spending my afternoon doing. I'll be on YouTube, splitting the video.
Do we have all the groups back?
No, not yet. I've got Ray's and Michael's, but I've just closed them, and they're going to close in 20 seconds. They'll be back in 20 seconds with this.
And do we have Dr. Goldsmith?
Not yet.
Okay.
So Ray's up on deck. Okay, everybody's back with us. Ray?
Let's get the names of the winners from each. Can we do that? Get
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds good. I have my top three.
You have 3. You didn't do a tiebreaker?
No, it was good. It was engaging. No tiebreaker. I guess it kind of would be between, I think, Brenda and Amanda from my group. Brenda, Amanda, Amy, they all came in the first 3, but Brenda and Amanda, I mean, they were just right next to each other. So, and Brenda finished, I think it was like 9-12 or something. So very impressive.
Awesome. How about Carla? Who won in your room?
Let's see. Shoshanik is getting our final count. Let's see.
Rico.
It looks like Rico, yeah.
Rico, awesome. Rico from construction, right, Rico?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, that's correct.
How about in Michael's room?
So we actually had quite a few that just jammed through it very quickly. And so then we went on to the tiebreaker, and Timothy Hahn, the coordinator of the police academy, was the first to post the link for the fall 20 important dates, which he
Awesome.
which he accessed using the search bar from the homepage.
Cool. So we didn't have to get to my tiebreaker because we also had somebody very speedy in our group. It was Erin, and I know her last name begins with a C. She teaches English, but I don't know what her last name is. Erin?
Chauncey.
Chauncey? Okay. So Erin was very, very quick, and she was quick because she had been already doing her Canvas shell and posting all of these resources for students. So she knew exactly where to go to find them. So that was cool, and I learned some things from her. So, all right, let's go. Do we have Dr. Goldsmith yet?
I don't see her in the room.
Okay, so Ray, do you want to go with your welcome first, and then we'll, oh, Carla.
Yeah.
If I could, just really quick, we had some things come out of our chat room that we wanted to share with all of you.
Sure.
In case you are all having issues too. Our folks are not getting emails and perhaps may not know what they are supposed to do on Thursday and Friday.
Those emails have not been sent out yet.
Okay, so if you are new on here, yes, we will be working Thursday and Friday. Those are your contract days, and you'll be getting information from your dean about, it'll all be virtual, except I am trying to get burritos on campus so we can drive through and get our burritos that we are due on convocation.
And this is normal. I panicked the first 5 years I worked here because I didn't hear, but it always comes the Wednesday before. So Thursday is a contract day. And usually Wednesday at 9 p.m. we'll get an agenda.
Yes, so everyone log in Wednesday to check your emails. Also, if you're having any issues with your Canvas not being able to access Canvas or resources not in your Canvas, I think we had said at this point, since you're all so new and folks won't recognize your name in the email, that your best option is to go through your division dean and let them know. And your division dean can take care of contacting folks for you to make sure that your shell is active, to make sure that your teacher toolbox is in your shell, and to make sure that you are, if you are coming from one of our sister colleges, it sounds like maybe there is a delay in getting your Fresno City College email account set up. and maybe you're still getting emails from your sister colleges. So these are all notes that we're taking, and we will get on these as quick as we can for you. If you have anything else like that come up, please let us know so we can get some resolution for you as quick as we can.
And speaking of email, for those of you who, I think it's, is it Michaela? Are you coming from Clovis? I sent out the registration for Flex to,
Carol is here. I'm sorry.
I sent out the registration for Flex Day this morning, but I also put the link to register for Flex in the chat right now. So please go and register. And also you can sign up for convocation. You just put it in there just so we can get an account.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Did you say you have one more thing you wanted to share?
Is that Carla?
Yeah, just one last thing before we turn it over to, I think President Goldsmith is here. Great to see President Goldsmith here. If I can share, one of our colleagues in my breakout session talked about something so thoughtful, and I thought it could be helpful to the rest of our team that's joining us. Brenda talked about how important it is to basically demystify the academic language that we use, right? So we had 15 items that were part of the scavenger hunt. And some of the items are very helpful, but if you don't understand what psychological services are, and maybe you're going through something mentally and you're not making that association as a student, then what good is that resource if you don't know what to look for? So Brenda even is thinking about making this part of a class assignment and or activity that she was already developing for her class. So I just wanted to commend Brenda for that and also share that idea with the rest of the group, because that could be helpful for your students to go through that process, just like we went through this process to try to discover where these resources are all over our campus and on our campus website. So thank you for that, Brenda, and I hope you all can find that helpful too.
So I did say to Susie before your group joined back in, I'm hoping we can make this a part of the survey for today is, you know, what did you have trouble with on the website? And from a student perspective, what were some of the things you thought might be hard for them to find, or understanding the resources? Because I think that can really help us, you know, in improving what we're doing. All right, so I am going to hand it over to President Goldsmith, who is here to welcome you all for today. Oh, you're muted.
That is the most common phrase in our lexicon. You're muted. I don't know how many times I've heard it and said it. So first of all, it is so wonderful to see all of you. And I'm scrolling through the pages right now, and it's just absolutely gorgeous to see you. I wish we could be together in a room, but that is just not a possibility right now. And I'm afraid it's not going to be a possibility for a while. So first of all, for some of you, it's been a while, but I remember you being in this office, and we had a little conversation, and I want to congratulate you again for being chosen and being selected, not only by me, but by your peers. So I hope you're feeling incredibly confident, maybe a little anxious as well about where we're at in terms of starting the new year in a remote reality. But I want you to know that you were chosen because you had, some people like to call it that it factor. Yes, you're all content experts, but each and every one of you had a spark. And what I mean by that, it's actually your love. And not only the love of your profession and the love of the content which you teach, but each one of you displayed a love for students and a love for learning. And I have really, that's one of the characteristics that I look for, because I believe that is contagious. And if you can show that to your students and convey that you care and that you love, and you love your subject matter and that you love them, it's something that we don't have enough of in this society. And being kind and having grace is something we need now more than ever, not only in our profession, but in our nation. So I want to encourage all of you to continue to hook on to that special, unique thing that made you divinely inspired to be you. Let that shine. And let your students know how much you care about them, because now more than ever they need to hear that. You know, at Convocation, I don't know if you do they know who's our speaker? Have you seen this book? Yes. National bestseller. Dr. Kinde is going to be joining us. Pretty amazing. This book has literally, I like to think I was woke before, but now I'm really wide awake. And I hope all of you are too. And if you don't have an opportunity to get this book, you have some time because Convocation's on Thursday, so you have a few days. You can still get it on Amazon, get it shipped to you. Highly recommend it. I want to share something from it. I think it really should shape where we're going this year, hopefully as an institution, and I hope as a community and a country. Racist ideas have defined our society since its beginning. And I start with that because I'm a history major, and history is very near and dear to my heart. And it's an acknowledgement of our past. And I believe if we do not acknowledge what we've done and make amends on so many levels, we will never be able to move forward. If any of you have ever gone through couples counseling or any type of counseling, you will know, or group therapy, you have to acknowledge the root issue, the original sin, the problem. And so being open to that, I think, makes us more vulnerable, and knowing where our students are coming from. And during Convocation, you're going to see some of the things that happen in this town. Not only have we dealt with a pandemic and political divisiveness, but we've seen our own peaceful protests that our students and many of our faculty have engaged in. So this is something that will impact our existence. It's something that will impact our work. It'll something that's going to impact how we interact with everybody. So let me start again. Racist ideas have defined our society since its beginning, and it can feel so natural and obvious that it's benign. But anti-racist ideas remain difficult to comprehend, in part because they go against the flow of the country's history. As Lord said in 1980, we have all been programmed to respond to the human differences between us with fear and loathing, and to handle that difference in one of three ways. Ignore it. And that's what we do often in education. We look the other way. I know, because I've done that. When I've taught class, I mean, how many times we look the blind eye, we ignore it. Ignore it, and if that's not possible, copy it if we think it's dominant, or destroy it if we think it's subordinate. But we have no patterns for relating across our human differences as equals. And this, I think, is the most seminal point for me. To be an anti-racist is a radical choice in the face of this history, requiring a radical reorientation of our consciousness. A radical choice. As we are starting the fall Convocation, I hope all of you are making a commitment to a radical choice. A radical choice to boldly educate, to be relentless in terms of being an anti-racist, and being relentless in showing your love and grace when we work with our colleagues who might not be where we're at, or might be far to the left or far to the right. Do not call them out in anger and frustration, but call them in with love and respect, to try to be able to figure out how can we make this institution, our students, and our community better through education and love. You know, our vision for our school is that we engage in a partnership to transform lives through education. A partnership. That word was intentionally chosen because it is a partnership between administration and faculty and classified, and all of us, the collective family at Fresno City College, and our students and our community. It's a relationship. And like any relationship, there are ups and downs, and it requires a lot of communication. So welcome to Fresno City College. You are serving at California's oldest institution, the second oldest in the nation. We are steeped in history. We are steeped in tradition. And one of those traditions and one of those ethos that we have is that we like to look inward and we like to think about how we can be better together. So if you're not up for that, or if any of the words that I've said kind of made you concerned, that's okay. If you want to talk to me about I need to leave, we'll figure that out. I know a lot of places are looking for people, but I want you all to stay. But I want you to be aware of what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to join me. I'm asking you to join Carla and join Carrie and join Ray and Carol. Because we look at data, we all collectively get on the scale. Have you gone to, the COVID-15, the COVID-10, the COVID-5? You have that moment where you got to get on the scale and you got to get real with yourself and you're like, oh my God, I gotta go on a diet. Well, that's where we're at as an institution. We are collectively getting on the scale. There's no body shame in here. We all got to do some different things. We got to change our behaviors. We got to call each other in and just do better. So I'm incredibly proud of this institution. You should be too. It is the largest institution in our valley, has 10,000 more students than Fresno State, although right now we're a little down because of the remote reality that we find ourselves in. Have all of you gone to your trainings? Can I see some heads shaking? Have you gone to your trainings? Good, because it was interesting. I see Keith Ford. Never before, and I think at any time in my life have I banded with the union so closely to make sure all of you guys get paid. Dear Lord, I'm glad we were able to compensate you. Wish it could have been a little more, but that's a story for another day. At Convocation, you're going to hear a little bit more about our CARES dollars. And I want to tell you about, you've been hearing about the CARES funding from the federal government. I want to tell you what we've focused on. We have focused on our students by getting more devices in their hands and Wi-Fi in their hands and trying to get some devices in your hands as well. We've also made sure everybody's safe by ordering more PPE and cleaning supplies. And the other chunk of dollars that we're putting in a pot is for professional development. And that's something we're really going to focus on this fall. I want to encourage all of you. I've talked to people about professional development and everybody wants to get these criteria together. I just want to make it first come, first serve. We're going to spend the money till we have it. And then we're going to encourage you to continue on to learn. I want you to take the Cora training. I want you to continue on and take training in online strategies and methodologies. I want your learning to continue. That's the best way to model, to be an educator, right? To acknowledge you need to continue to learn. So seek those opportunities out. This institution is all about learning. We are a learning college. That means we value our students' learning. We value our classified learning. We value our faculty learning. And dare I say, even our administrators can learn a thing or two. So with that, I'm going to pause. I'm going to say again, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to see your beautiful faces and your brilliant minds. Do any of you have any questions you'd like to ask me? If so, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Often I get questions about parking passes. This year we don't have to worry about it. You can park wherever you're at. We will be having some classes online or on ground, and you'll be getting a memo and a message from me later this afternoon, but basically I'll give you a sneak peek. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have offered our first responder, our police, our fire, our nursing programs. We've had to do so differently. We've maintained a lot of the theory portion online. We brought people back using physical distancing and social distancing protocols, new cleaning protocols, PPE, and I'm happy to report we've done so safely without incident. Earlier this summer, we also brought back a number of essential career technical programs. Now, when I say essential, let me be clear, that's the state's definition, not mine. Every one of our programs and classes and student support services is essential in my mind, but the state has these guidelines. So these were like some of our welding and manufacturing and automotive, because we got to keep the supply chain still going while we're all staying at home. Those programs earlier this summer, we brought them back using social distancing and bringing back PPE. We only made sure, I want to let you know this, Only faculty, if they felt comfortable, came back. And we told our students, if you don't feel comfortable, we will continue and we will give you a stay and a waiver. So we only went with the band of the willing. We worked with the California Department of CDC, California Department of Health, and our public health, and we brought back those programs safely. And again, I'm happy to report no incidents, no incidents. And this summer, we had a number of task force. One of them was the safe return and recovery of our programs. And they came up with some great plans for child development, how they could do it, some great plans for our athletics, great plans for our studio programs like ceramics and music, and of course our science labs. And unfortunately, right now, it is not safe to bring any of those back. So you're going to be hearing more about that later today, but I wanted to let all you know. Well, we're still waiting for Sacramento to come and give us some more guidance from the governor's office. I'm a firm believer that our Savior is not in Washington, D.C. Our Savior is not in Sacramento, and our Savior is not in downtown. Our saving grace is by listening to health officials, public health officials, listening to the data, and relying primarily on the faculty wisdom. And so I made the decision that we will be primarily online. Our childcare will not be able to come back this fall. Our science activities, our studio activities, our performance and our athletics will not be coming back this fall. When it's safe to do so, we will. We're going to continue to plan for that. But we're going to keep you safe. We're going to keep our students safe because 30,000 students, this is a small city. We can't be here together yet. So those are some updates. We're still building new facilities. We're still breaking ground on a new parking structure. We're still spending money on professional development. We're just going to be remote for a while. And the last thing is 5 months of doing this, I know that you can do this. I know you're up for the challenge. So, any questions? Wow. Not even what's the winning lottery number? Come on, nothing? Okay. All right, everybody, I'm gonna let you back to your time. If you do have any questions and you just didn't want to raise your hand, or if you didn't want to, ask a question in front of your peers, feel free to give me a shout out. You can easily email me. You can find me on the website, or you can even go on your Outlook and look at Carol with an E, Goldsmith. You can email me directly. I get tons of emails, but you might want to say question from a faculty member, and that will give me a heads up that you're asking a question. All right, everybody.
Real quick, I see that it was a question about spring.
Yeah.
The question is, are you planning for the spring semester? Are we going remote during the spring?
That's a great question. And I'm not going to give you the politically correct answer. I'm going to give it to you straight. As I said earlier, our Savior is not going to be found in any city. It's really kind of futile to think that any of us are in control. The virus is in control. And until it becomes safe for us to come back, we're not going to. We're going to keep planning for our phased in approach, because let's say they get a vaccine next week. It's going to take a long time to get that vaccine manufactured, a long time to get it out and all the things. It's going to take a while. But once things do start getting safe, or there's a treatment, we will do a phased in approach. And one of the things that we've done over the summer is we kind of flattened our governance, and we created this leadership team. It was actually a response team that you normally do during emergencies. And in that response team, it's open to anybody, by the way, but we decide a lot of things there. And it's made up of members of academic senate, classified senate. Our union reps are there as well. And we have conversations about what it is we're going to do. So to answer your questions about spring, I hope we can come back in a phased in approach. I think when we come back, I don't think we're going to flip the switch and say, okay, everything's back to normal. I think we'll still take it a very slow approach. I hope to bring back some things this spring. But I would not say, yes, we're planning for spring and we're going to have a third of our classes. I think that would be a fool's errand. I think for us, we're going to all have to change the time or change the way we think. It's no longer a when. What does the calendar date look like? What term will it be? It's going to be what are the health indicators in our community? How do our hospitals look? What's the new infection rate? Right now, the state has told us that we're supposed to have 14 days of declining new case numbers. We have not had that ever. We're on a watch list. Our numbers of infection should be down to 7. Ours is closer to 12. We're going to have to look at data in new ways, not necessarily the calendar. So I'm hopeful, but I'm also very, very pragmatic. And I will continue to be very open and transparent with all of you. You're going to see a video that will go out along with a printed comment that will go into a little bit more detail. I hold virtual forums every 2 or 3 weeks. That's open to anybody. You can ask questions at any time. And we're going to keep doing that because that's the only way we're going to get through this is together and sharing our hopes and our concerns openly. Now is not the time to have a lot of protocol. You won't hear most presidents say that, but I believe in keeping things flat and trying to keep it as real as possible. So are we planning on having a spring semester? You bet. Do I think it's really possible that we're going to have a spring that looks like normal springs? No. We might be able to bring back a few of those phased in activities that we had planned on, maybe bring back some of the lab activities, some of the studio activities. I know our 3C2A is really hopeful that we might be able to bring back some athletics. But I don't know if any of you saw the Pac-12 students last night. I love this. I don't know if any of you are sports fans, but the Pac-12 collegiate students, this is NCAA students, they said, we're not coming back until you meet some of our demands. A, will you make sure our health coverage extends for 6 years after we leave? Because we do not know what the long-term effects are. We are student athletes. We are not your entertainment. We ask that 50% of the college funds that you get off of watching us play sports, that goes into a fund and paid equally among the student athletes. They asked for health care. They asked to be able to have a waiver so that if they wanted to transfer, they could. They asked that their eligibility be placed on hold. You're seeing people come together and ask for the things that they should ask. And as a college president, I have never been more proud in knowing that many of those students came from this institution. They're standing up and speaking out to power. So everybody, continue to do good things. Get in a little good trouble. I thank you for your time as well, Martina. Good to see you. And since we cannot handshake, I'm going to start a new trend. The spirit in me sees the spirit in you, and I say namaste. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, President Guzman. All right, Susie's gonna prepare the next slide here. Well, hello again, everyone. So this slide might look familiar. You might recall this from the kickoff orientation we facilitated, I believe it was July 8th. You know, that seems like a very long time ago. Very long time ago, but actually wasn't too long ago when you think about the number of weeks. Really what I wanted to share with everyone is just really revisit the purpose of this orientation and kind of the why behind us putting this together for the new employees. You know, this really started, the impetus for this started with the Student Equity and Success Committee when that group was developing the now college approved 2019-22 Student Equity Plan. A little shout out to the colleagues that are on the call who were part of that group. That was Carrie, Carla, Kirk, don't want to miss anyone. Of course, let's see, who else? Oh, Keith Ford, I cannot forget Keith Ford has been on that committee as well. We created this activity in the student equity plan that was at that time originally only for faculty. So all new part-time faculty, all new full-time faculty, to create some type of equity onboarding and training process. And it kind of evolved since then, and we included all employees, so new classified professionals and new administrators. And around the same time that we were developing this activity with the the College Equity and Success Committee, our Academic Success Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Academic Senate, which was previously very much concerned with our basic skills plan, which is now part of our equity efforts. And then not too long ago after that, like literally this past year, if that, our college was approved for Title V, 5-year plan, Title V with the V. That is a Hispanic Serving Institutions grant. And so there's items in that institutional planning document that further support this idea of faculty and employee onboarding from an equity lens. So I just wanted to remind you all about the level of support and the level of aspiration with this activity that we're all engaged in right now. There's a lot of institutional support behind that. What President Goldsmith was not scripted. I think she is speaking off the cuff as she naturally does, but you can see that some of the sentiment that she's expressing, it's very much parallel to our institutional equity planning efforts. And you know, Fresno City College is not unique to having educational equity gaps. Unfortunately, those educational equity gaps, like in most higher education institutions, are especially disproportionate for our Black, African American, Indigenous, Latinx student population, the majority of which are first generation and low income. And that's not to say those are the only student populations who are experiencing disproportionate impact. What we do know through research and data is that they're among the most disproportionately impacted. So just wanted to point that out. So really, to address this issue, it takes a collective movement. It takes a collective effort, right? If you can advance to the next slide, Susie. I also repurposed this slide from the previous presentation that I did for the kickoff on July 8th with all of you. Just as a reminder, even though it takes a collective, right, to really create the institutional conditions and experiences that lead to equity and outcomes, that collective change first has to start with the individual, right? And I think that is a profound notion as well as a profound statement. But if they simply remain as the notions and statements, then we will not realize the full opportunity of equity and outcomes for our students. So that's really the purpose of this new Employee Equity Academy. Yes, we certainly want to provide you with the information and resources that you need to know as a new employee to the college, right? If you're a faculty or if you're a classified professional. But we also want to make sure that we are providing you with the resources that we currently have with regard to student success and equity training and learning opportunities, and really to, probably more importantly, to have time, space, and opportunities to engage in conversations about how we can use our positions from a teaching, leading, or whatever it is standpoint to advance our institutional equity agenda forward. And we're hoping that that's what can happen over the course of the next couple of semesters with your faculty guides. Shout out to the faculty guides that were able to join us. I know there's a few with us. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. But that's really what this is about, right? Traditionally, Carrie, Keith, a lot of you very well know this. For me, I've been a part-time faculty since 2012. And so, and a lot of you might be part-time faculty previously. What generally happens is you get thrown into the position, right, as a part-time faculty. And when I was a faculty coordinator, I thought that it was going to be a lot more elaborate and so much more, right, in terms of the breadth and depth of information I would receive as a new employee. And not that I didn't, I'm not saying that, okay? Don't quote me to that. I received a lot of information, but what I found is that most of the information I received, I could have probably deduced that information or found it on my own, right? Just by doing some searches. And not all of it, but a lot of it. So really what we thought is we take what we did over the past really forever of our onboarding procedures and processes, and we attempt to what I call equitize them, right? So we got together with a group of colleagues and we said, hey, what could we do to build on the existing structure and embed some equity components and principles into that onboarding and orientation process? And that's what led us to where we're at today. In a nutshell, that's not the exhaustive story, but just a nutshell. And the reason why I'm sharing this purpose is because every single one of you plays such an important role in this college and the culture that we envision it to be. You play the biggest role in influencing student success and equity outcomes. I'm a recovering faculty in my new director role now. And what I will always say is that the backbone of higher education first are the classified professionals that are often, frankly, disregarded as not being as important to academia, right? For instance, there are few bodies of work that highlight the influence and role of classified professionals, right? That's growing now. And then, of course, I would say parallel to that are our faculty, not the administrators. They come and go, y'all. That's just the culture of academia, right? I'm not saying why or not trying to even engage in that conversation, but classified professionals and faculty are the backbone of the college. There's a reason why there's so much faculty domain and agency in community colleges that give you so much freedom and authority. We refer to 10+1, you'll learn more about later, I'm sure, because we have so much agency and influence in this college. So this is really why we are creating this space, because we believe in your ability and your agency to transform this college, right? In collaboration with our existing colleagues and faculty and classified professionals, administrators, yes, but everyone that comes onto this campus and that we hire, we believe is going to contribute to the culture of the college. And that culture, we want it to be inviting, inclusive, equity-minded, and we want everyone to know that they belong at this college. So with that, I'll turn it over to the next section of the orientation for today. Thank you all for being here.
You're turning it over to yourself. You and Carol are our next presenters. Is Carol leading the charge here?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm happy to jump in if Carol needs my assistance, but Carol Rains-Heisdorf from Institutional Research is simply amazing, and I believe she's got it covered.
Awesome. All right, Carol, take it away.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. As I said, I'm Carol Rains-Heisdorf. I am a classified professional and I work in institutional research. I'm a senior research and planning analyst. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm going to be talking with you this morning about our students and their voice and our demographics and what we look like. And so I'm doing my presentation a little bit different, and I don't know, Susie or whoever's it, can I have access to share, or can you do a shared sharing? I need to click on some things there. Otherwise, Susie, I can walk you through what to click on.
Just click on the link, Susie. The blue link on the bottom, that should be good.
It's going to be a little tricky, Susie, so I'm going to need your help. I was kind of expecting to be able to click on things. So you Carol, can see, like everybody always says, this is what our students are going to go through, right?
Carol, I'm giving you co-host.
Okay.
So just share what it is you need to share.
All right. Let's see if I'm doing this right. And so I have just these slides too. Let's see if this will work. Here we go. Can everybody see that okay? Yeah. I also have to start off by saying that one of the things I'm going to really miss, we have to do everything remotely in my office. I share it typically with new faculty. And so each year, new faculty that come in, the people that were in our office get to move to a different office, and they usually have like 3 or 4 new faculty that I get to share my office with, and it's such a privilege. And I don't know which ones of you I would have been sharing my office with, but I just want you to know how much our office learns from being able to share thoughts and ideas and your experiences as new faculty. We've learned a lot in our office, and it's really helped to influence some of our work. So the first thing I'm going to talk with you guys about is listening to our students. And this really started very, very intentionally with the first student equity plan in 2014. And they asked our office to conduct focus groups with students of color. Oh, this is doing something interesting. Okay, so I'm going to do things a little bit different. Usually in our presentations, you know, we try to show you visuals, but I thought it would be important to help you find where to find this information that I'm going to show you. So this is our institutional research page, and we have a whole page that's about our students and their voice. And this is where you can access some of those documents that have the student's voice. So like I said, in our first equity plan, they asked us to conduct some focus groups with the students. And I'm going to open up this one. And so these focus groups, we use the protocol from what is called the Student Supports Redefined. It was by the Research and Planning Group. And they identified 6 success factors that are important to our students. And it's being directed, focused, nurtured, engaged, connected, and valued. So our first focus groups were with Black African American students, and we asked them questions about the importance of these 6 success factors. And like I said, this isn't my normal presentation. I'd have all these little images, but I really wanted you to be able to see what these documents look like and know where to find them. So the 3 factors that our Black African American students identified as being important was feeling valued. And in here we have the comments from the students about that. So things like making the dean's list, engaging in community service, that a faculty wanted them to attend a special award dinner and represent Fresno City College. Those things were important to the student. Students also recognize that some of this is their responsibility. So being focused and staying focused, their motivation. This one is interesting. You come thinking in that college is like high school. If you have another thing coming, that's what that student was saying. So being able to recognize themselves, that part of this is their responsibility. And then how can you help them to continue to feel focused? And the students also indicated that being nurtured was very important to them. The student talked about how one of their faculty treats them like their own children, and the importance of having a mentor to help them. One of the other things, I'm going to scroll through here, there's a lot more quotes and information, but Ray Ramirez, Dr. Ramirez, he really helped us in our analysis. As we were listening to the students, we realized that there was really something more that they were trying to tell us. And so I worked with Ray and using critical race theory to do an analysis of what the students were saying to us. And I'm going to just scroll through here real quick to this area right here about institutional culture. And that it moves beyond, I'm going to just read this. It moves beyond an individualistic focus, is respectful of the socio-political realities of marginalized groups, and does not reinforce the power structures in society. And this quote right here really struck me, and it's something that, oh man, go away. Here we go. I'm going to let you just read this for a second. That quote has always really struck me in that it's really important in what we say and in how we say it, and in understanding that what we say sometimes, even for me, when I did the unconscious bias training, that sometimes the things that I say come across from me and is perceived very differently by someone else. And just being able to be honest and real about that is important. So that's just one. Let me see if I can go back to that slide. So that's just one of our student equity. We did one for each of these groups, and we also did one with our LGBTQ students. So you can access those at any time and read through those. Something else that we did real recently, when we shifted to the distance education, we did a survey with our students to better understand what that experience was like last semester. It was huge, and it had a huge impact not only on our students, but also on us, on everything we do. And as you know, it's still impacting us. So we have a data analysis report. This is the full report. It's long. There's a lot of data in it. But we really felt that it was really important to do not just an analysis of the data, but also to disaggregate the data. So this is a summary of that data. And with the leadership of Dr. Ramirez and Dr. Pimentel, our Vice President of Educational Services and Institutional Effectiveness, we started looking at the data in the context of our students of color and their peer counterparts. And we asked students in this survey about access. Did they have access to internet? Did they have computers? How good was their internet access? We also asked them about what are those things that might have been impacting their ability to continue their education. Did they have access to health services? Did they have issues with losing their job? Did they need additional childcare? How were they being impacted by having their children at home? And when we did our analysis, we looked again, like I said, at our students of color and then at their counterparts. And Ray, maybe you can jump in real quickly if you want to and talk about the importance of being able to identify who those students of color were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, essentially what we found is overall students were experiencing various levels of access to technology and resources to help with the transition to virtual learning, right? And so while there was variance, one thing was for sure is that overall, things just were not looking good. Students were experiencing lack of access to those resources that are needed to have a meaningful virtual learning experience. And what we knew is that if that's the case, then we certainly needed to disaggregate the data more to better understand who perhaps is experiencing those disparities more, right, at higher rates. And what we found is that for our men of color, just like their existing outcomes in student success, their experience with access to resources was disproportionately more than their female counterparts. And so in some other areas, there's an opposite effect, but in general, overall, we found that our students of color were experiencing higher levels of barriers in access to resources and technology. And why is that important? Because if you don't have access to resources to help with the virtual learning experience process, you're less likely to be successful in coursework, correct? Therefore, that is in part likely to influence the likelihood of those students coming back the subsequent semester, right? And so that's why it's very profound information and data for us to look at. And I just want to give a big shout out and commend the research office who put a lot of time into this report. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ray. And so this first section is showing us that the students, in particular for men of color, oftentimes they were using just their basic cell phone or a smartphone to access their coursework. They didn't have a laptop or a notepad even. And so it's important for us to understand what are those resources. Our institution has done a lot of work this summer in getting some sort of laptops, in getting MiFis for the students to be able to use. But it's important to remember, I live in the Madera Ranchos. And so at first they let me use a MiFi, but even out here, that MiFi still really didn't work because of the location. So we have a lot of students that are, live remotely and that may live in areas where their internet access is not very good. And some of our students had a lack of unlimited access. So one of the other things we found with the students was that they had a laptop, but now their kids were at home and they had to share that laptop with 5 different people. So it's important for us to remember some of those things that are going to be impacting our students. The students also, many last semester, had never taken a distance education course. And that was very in particular to Fresno City College. When we looked at it district-wide, that wasn't the case on all of the campuses, but in particular for Fresno City College, there was a lot of students. So that might be something to remember too, that some of the students that may be trying to come back and might be trying to attempt again to take a distance education course, they still might not have a lot of experience with what that is and what that looks like. And they also had concerns with multiple resources. So did they have food insecurities? Did they have access to psychological care? So those were some of the questions we also asked. What we found was for women of color, a lot of their concerns, while they did have these concerns also, a lot of their concerns were also focused on some of those barriers that were really impacting them that were somewhat external. So an increase in workload. This isn't just a workload in their job, but also a workload that comes from having children at home, from sometimes having adult family members, a parent that might be at home. Sometimes they were taking care of grandparents. They had care for dependents. A lot of our students expressed concerns with their mental health, depression and anxiety. And again, some students had lost their job. Some of our students are essential workers, so they had a job increase, which is up here with the increased workload. But these were additional concerns for our students of color and for our women of color. You'll also see that this is broken down by the specific men of color and their peer counterparts. It was really important, and one of the things that Ray really has been helping our office with is to really specifically identify and give voice to who those students are. So we have a large Hmong and Laotian Cambodian student population to be able to give voice to those students specifically. So when you look at this, you'll be able to see a further breakdown of all of this data. And what we're also trying to do in our office is to make sure that we show this information first. Typically in research, what we show you is what's this down here. We show you the everybody. But what we're finding in our office is that we really want to show you who our students are. All of our students are important, but it's important to really see who our students are. And so that's one of the things we're really trying to move towards and change in the culture of our institutional research office. So I'm going to try to go back to that slide real quick. So that's just a little part of our student voice. We also do lots of other kind of surveys. We do SENSE, which is a survey for first-time entering students. We do SESI, which is about our student engagement after they've been here for a little bit longer. And all of those are also available on that website. I don't know how to get out of here, but I'm going to go back. Because the next thing that we were going to look at, actually I did that wrong, sorry. Let me go to the next slide. So the next thing we were going to look at was, so who do we look like as faculty in comparison to our students? And this is important because that's also a lot of work that Ray has really been engaged in. I anticipate that when you applied, you probably saw different, I can't remember what it's called, it's not the application, but the job description. They changed that dramatically over the last few years, and that in part is from the work that Fresno City College started with Q, and that our district office engaged in to be able to become more diverse. So what you'll see here is this is our fall 2020, and this is the race and ethnicity for our faculty is in gray, and for our students is in red. And you can see that we have a very large white, non-Hispanic faculty population. And a large percentage of our students are Hispanic, but you don't see that reflected in the faculty. And this is important because oftentimes our students will talk about the importance of being able to see someone who looks like them. And so we wanted to be able to show you what this slide looks like, what our makeup is. And I don't know, Ray, do you want to say anything else about what the district has been doing and what we've been doing in working for the diversity? Oh, and you're on mute. Sorry, Ray.
Never fails. Thank you. Well, I forgot what I said, so I'm done. No, jokes aside, it's been a college-wide effort. It really has. You know, it's part of the work of the district-wide EEO advisory committee. Myself, my colleague Keith is on that committee as well. And over the past couple years, we essentially looked at a lot of data, like hiring data. Of course, all of it is anonymized, but just like some of the demographics and looking at data for administrators, faculty, and staff alike. And the reason why we're looking at that so intensively is because the district-wide EEO, or Equal Employment Opportunity, the EO and Diversity Committee at the district, they had to update our reports, the annual reports. And so we were just in an intense, really phase of looking at those data. And, you know, lo and behold, unsurprisingly, what we saw is that we really could do better in improving the diverse makeup of classified professionals, faculty, and administrator, but mostly in the administrative across the district and of course at Fresno City College. So we've done a lot of work in terms of trying to increase the diverse hiring, the diversity of the pools, as well as the actual hiring, right? There's been a lot of work in that area. Training with individuals, training specifically with administrators, and even district-wide events on training with unconscious bias and learning how to use certain protocols to help diversify the recruitment, interviewing, and ultimate hiring process for all personnel. One thing I do want to say, and I presented several presentations with Carrie, others, and folks at HR to colleges in the district on this topic. One thing I always want to first acknowledge is yes, racial, ethnic, gender, or non-conforming generation status representation matters. 100%, absolutely. What I also say is that the mindset is equally important, right? And so when we focus on diversifying our faculty, classified, and administrative ranks, we have to couple that with training, resources, and professional development that help encourage folks to think differently about the way they view their role and position in a community college to advance an equity agenda. Because if we simply rely on just focusing on diversifying all hiring ranks, yes, diversity matters, but it's insufficient alone. And so this is not to minimize the work we've been doing, and this is not to say that diversity does not matter. It absolutely matters. Representation matters. What I can also tell you from personal experiences through colleagues, family members, friends, personally, right, from various backgrounds, don't all have the mindset that allows them to believe in the importance of equity principles and things related to that. So it's very important, and that's why this is just one piece of the work that we're doing to try to improve what we do at the college to create equitable experiences and outcomes.
Thank you, Ray. So my next group of slides, actually there's only one more, has to do with who we serve. So who are our students? And again, I'm going to show you how to access this data. Again, you just come back to our institutional research, and then we have data dashboards. And I just have to say that in our office, we're reconsidering calling them data dashboards, because data to me implies that it's just a number. And to us and to our office and to our institutions, it's not a number. It's our students, it's who they are. So we're trying to think, and if you have any good suggestions, I'm thinking maybe college dashboards, but something other than that, something that says this is who our students are. So you can see we have lots of tabs. What I'm going to show you is the program review. And this is where you can find information about your students that you are teaching, who's sitting in your classroom. Take just a second. And this is what you will all be engaged in eventually, is that each of you will, I'm sure, participate in your discipline's program review. That's done every 4 years. So what you see first when you look at this is the overall data. So this is going to show you as an institution, what is our enrollment, what is our head count, how many class sections do we have, and our class size. One of the things is that this is also evolving and changing thanks to the equity work that we're doing as a college. We have an enrollment breakdown page where it starts to look at who, what are the age groups of our students? What's the ethnicity? You'll see this trend line right here, and this references this last year of data. So that's what it was in 1920 on each of these trend lines. And then there's gender and whether students are full-time or part-time. And then we also have added, this is something that's really changed a lot too in program review, in being able to disaggregate our data, not only by race and ethnicity, but also by gender. One of the important goals for our college is that we focus on our men of color. That is our educational master plan, goal 1.1. And that's very important to our college, that we're able to identify the barriers that we have, institutional barriers for our students. I'm going to go back real quick to this first tab. And I'm going to show you that you can select by your division. So as I was looking at this, I have some good friends in FPCA, and I noticed one of you is also in that division and teach communication. So you can look at what's specific for your area. And as I was looking at this, when you start looking at data, it gets really interesting. One of the things that we've done is an enrollment management plan, and we did a cluster analysis, and it indicated that we really need to be intentional in our focus of our younger students. So you can see in communication, they have a lot of younger students. In part, that may be with dual enrollment, but a lot of students take communication when they first come. That's one of the classes that a lot of them enroll in. So when you use that filter on the first page, it filters on the other pages. So you can see that that filter carries over. And so you can see the data that's for communication. It shows it across the top here. And this will help you to better understand your own area and what it looks like. And you can see that the success rate is pretty good, and GPA is for our students overall. And I want to mention that GPA is important. That's something that we're starting to have more discussions about, because a lot of our students want to transfer to CSUs and UCs. They have all kinds of restrictions. And if a student doesn't have a high enough GPA, they can go through all of our programs. They can get their AS degree, their transfer degree, and they can still not get in to the institution of their choice because their GPA is too low. So it's not just about success, it's about learning. And I know you guys all know and understand that, and how you can best communicate with your students. So now I'm looking at my clock, I'm 3 minutes over, but I'm gonna stop sharing and see if there were any questions.
Carol, Stephanie had a question. Stephanie, go ahead.
I was just wondering if there's a place to view this type of information or this type of data for our current classes, for our current enrollment. Can we look and see the breakdown of data like this for our current students?
You can, and you actually do that, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, you guys are going to be talking about the student success teams. Is that right?
Yes, but
Yeah.
we can't do that on our own, can we?
Yeah. Not on your own, but you do have access to your student success teams, and they have dashboard that they can share. In part, we don't have that available because that also has student lists attached to it. Student success teams are very action oriented, and so they are going to be reaching out to the students that are in your area. Your success team does, but they would be the ones that could help with that. But that's a good idea. I don't know. We're going to have to think about what
And
that
I
kind of
know
look like.
we've done, so we did it with the Q Equity Labs. I don't know if Marianne did it in the Eiffel trainings where we were able to see, and I'm not even sure how they pulled that data, but we were able to see in our own classes the demographics and the retention and success by race, gender. So did they work with you on that, Carol? I mean, that's not something we can do all the time. It's not something we have ready access to, but I know it can be done.
Yeah, and it can be done. You're right. And that's something that we have talked about. You have to be careful because of privacy reasons, especially at that granular level. And Tableau isn't set up real well to be able to do that and to give only access to who's supposed to have access to that data. That's something that we've been working on though. But that's a really good idea, what you said though, about being able to provide faculty with access to what do the demographics look like in their area right now. That's something we can consider. Were there any other questions?
You can break it down by not the section, but by the class. So for English 1A, you could break it down to see the overall. So which, you know, in English, it's a little harder. For philosophy, sometimes it's like, yeah, we know there's only one section of this class, so we can tell, right?
I think Keith had his hand raised.
Yeah, I'll retract my question. I can follow up with Carol later. It's kind of a deeper dive into the data. So,
and that is something that I should have also shown you. We do have a data request form that's on our website, and we very, very often do deeper dives into the data. It also can take a little bit of time depending on what the project is and what the data need is. But oftentimes, in particular, when programs are going through program review, they'll want to do a deeper dive. I know the psychology program has been doing a real deep dive into Psych 2. Oftentimes, it's in relation to better understanding a specific course that faculty may be focused on as part of their annual unit planning, and they really want to dig into, you know, what is it about that course? Psych 2 is a really important course for our students. A lot of students take that, and so the psych department is doing a real deep dive, and we've been doing a lot of data in this project for them. So it might be something that you would want to talk with about your colleagues about what might you guys want to explore, and then we can work with you on doing some kind of research on that.
Carol, thank you so much for your presentation. That was great. I always love it. And I learned a couple of new things that I'm excited about delving into. I love looking at data. I didn't used to, but Carol really helped with that. So I encourage you to work with the Institutional Research Office in asking those questions about data. So I think now we are up for our break. So let's do 10 minutes and come back. Let's do 8 minutes and come back at 10:45. All right, cool. So for our next session, we are just going to touch on some things that you need to know in the first 3 weeks of class. So as Ray mentioned, a lot of us were involved in the orientations previously, and they would tell you what you needed to know for the entire year. And we're like, wait a minute, okay, they don't care about how to enter grades right now. let's talk about, you know, how to add and drop and things like that. So throughout the semester, the things that we aren't covering in the orientation, your mentors, you as new faculty, you're assigned mentors if you're a faculty member, and also your support guides, and that goes for all of you. You can ask your support guides for guidance on a lot of this stuff as we're going through. So I'm going first, and I'm just gonna take 10 minutes to talk about some of the logistics for add drop forms and attendance and things like that. And on Wednesday, you can follow up if we don't have time to answer your questions today. And at the end of the day, we'll have Q&A. But there will be time for sure. Your support guides will go into a lot of this. So I'm going to, Susie, can I share my screen? Oh, yes, I can. Okay, let me minimize this a little bit. So the important dates, we actually just got an email sent from our dean. So I'm assuming all the deans did that, but during this meeting with the important dates document, and you have to put that on your syllabus. So you'll have access to those. I put a link here and you'll have that, that's in the PowerPoint for today. So you'll have access to that, but you should have gotten it from your dean as well this morning. So these are the initial important dates, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's important to communicate with your students in terms of adding and dropping with these particular dates. So for the deadline to be eligible for a refund is the 8/21, which is the third week of the semester. So after the end of the third week, you are able, the students can drop with a refund. And then this says with staff assistance and without staff, or just on WebAdvisor, that they can add with an add code. So you'll get those codes. Students can add themselves up until this Friday, I believe, is usually the date where it cuts off. And then nobody can add over the weekend. And then you'll get add codes and you can add students starting on Monday. And students can use those up until the 28th. You really want to follow up with students if they're not using their add codes, especially if you have classes with wait lists and you have other students waiting to get in. So if you're trying to manage your roster, usually that's actually not the case for me this semester, but in the past what I've done is I've told them, you know, please use your add code within 2 days or I'll have to give your spot to somebody else if it's that kind of situation where there's people actually waiting to get in. And then it says without assistance on WebAdvisor. These are going to be with assistance and without assistance. That'll be a Friday with assistance, and then the Sunday is when they can usually use it. But I always tell them to also don't wait till the last minute. Sometimes they're waiting for financial aid to kick in or other things or blocks. So ask them if they haven't used it. I wouldn't just, you know, make any blanket statements about you get 2 days and that's it. But, you know, tell them to let you know if there's some reason why they can't use their add code in time, because they might have some mitigating circumstances and it's important to acknowledge that. So there's a link here, as I mentioned. You also should have a really clear attendance policy. So one of the things that we've always been told in the past, and this is a little tricky, and again, your support guides can go into this in a little more detail, but we've always been told to drop no-shows on the first day. The problem this semester is there is no first day officially because we're online. So classes don't meet on Monday, and you can't have the expectation that all your students are going to check in on Monday. Financial aid does actually start to, because students are awarded financial aid, and then if they no-show a class, traditionally what happens is that we are supposed to drop our students right away, and then they can recover that money, or they don't send out the next, the checks are given in increments. So there's some financial aid implications. So I'm going to show you what I did. This is my personal policy that I actually was revising over the weekend. So, you know, don't take this as official in any way, but it's just an idea of some of the ways you can do this in an equity-minded way. And I welcome feedback from, I don't know if Mary Ann's on the line, but Ray or anybody else, Jackie and Sally, those of you who have worked on this, I'd be thrilled to hear some feedback from you on this. So the no-shows and attendance policies, this is what I'm putting for my attendance policy. My attendance policy is based on your likelihood of succeeding in the class, and it's not intended to be punitive. If you have a crisis happening in your life, please let me know so I can help you make a decision about the class. Communication is key. I measure attendance in online classes by your participation in academic activities, so make sure you complete the assigned activities each week. If you have 2 weeks with no activity in the class prior to October 9th, I will contact you, and if I don't hear back from you by the indicated date, you'll be dropped. And this is reversible if there are some extenuating circumstances that have prevented you from responding to me. So I want to let them know that even though I have this policy, there's always exceptions based on their circumstances. And I also let them know why. So dropping you by this date ensures you won't receive a non-passing grade on your transcript. So if you drop them by October 9th, then it's a W on their transcript, and not after the 9th, it automatically, if the student has not shown up, then you have to assign them an F. So automatically after the 9th, they get a grade. So if you don't participate at all in the first week of class, I'll contact you on Wednesday. So I'm giving them a very specific date, and you'll be dropped if I don't hear back from you by August 14th. And dropping prior to August 21st ensures that you don't receive a mark on your transcript, which can impact your ability to retake the class and be eligible for financial aid. So again, I'm giving them a reason why I have this policy, that it's not, I'm not punishing them. This is really about ensuring that we're setting them up for success. So what I'm planning on doing is in the first week, because it might be that students just think, okay, I'm not going to take the class, but I'm sure that the instructor will. And by reaching out to them, it gives them the opportunity to say, oh yeah, I was going to drop this class, I just hadn't gotten around to it, and then you can drop for them. Or it gives you the opportunity to get in touch with them because maybe they are sick, right? We have a lot of students, I'm hearing from instructors over the summer who have students that have COVID. So this is going to happen, and we want to make sure that we're allowing for that. And these drops are reversible, but after week 3 is when we certify our rosters, and that's going to be the 21st. Let me talk about this for a second. It can impact your ability to retake the class and be eligible for financial aid. So what that means is prior to that 3rd week of class, if they're dropped, it's no fault, nothing goes on their transcript. But after that, they get a W on their transcript if they drop. And a W in terms of being able to retake a class counts as what we call a take. So a student only gets 3 takes, and then they cannot take that class anywhere in the system in the state of California. So if they take English, there's appeals that they can do, but officially that's the policy for eligibility to take a class. So if you take English 1A and you drop it 3 times and you have W's on your transcript, that 3rd time is your last strike, so to speak. Also, in terms of financial aid, you cannot get financial aid for a class. I believe it's after 2 times. So students, we really, and again, there's appeal processes, but we really want to help students with this process as much as possible. Of course, we don't want them to drop it all, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But if they are going to drop, or if they've got something going on, and you are going to have students like this that just have life circumstances, maybe they took on too much, or maybe they're sick, or a loved one got sick. There's going to be a couple students in each class, and you really want to help them do what's going to be best for them. If a student is in your class and somehow they don't get added prior to week 3, which is certification, there's a form called a speedy form, and you will hear from your deans that they don't want you to do speedy forms. So those are used for extenuating circumstances. I actually had to look it up this morning because I didn't know what it stood for. I know what they are, but it's a student petition for exception to enrollment deadline due to extenuating circumstances. So if I have a student in my class that they've been participating, this would be weird in an online class. This would be more for in person. I'm trying to think of a scenario online, and maybe one of my colleagues can help here who teaches online more often. But for some reason, they haven't been given an ad code, and there's some really extreme situation where we think the student needs to be in the class. Then we do have something called a speedy form, which means that they can enroll the deadline, but we don't get funded for that student. So that's why you're not going to be real excited about the speedy forms if you have one, because the college doesn't get funded for that student. So some of the things that you can do to help them not drop the class is, one of the things is Starfish Early Alert, which Julie Preston Smith, I think, will be touching on that a little bit, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. So on these dates, August 26th, September 25th, and October 28th, you'll be getting emails from counseling. It's Starfish Early Alert, where you can go in and flag students in your classroom for various reasons. So if it's somebody who hasn't been showing up, you can flag them, or if it's somebody who is not doing well on writing assignments, or if they're missing assignments, there's various things you can check, and it's really easy. They give you a link and you go in and you have your students there and you can check what the issue is with the students. And then a counselor or somebody from their student success team, their support team, is going to contact them. So Julie's going to definitely talk about the student success teams coming up after me. So you can use those anytime throughout the year. You can go in through your portal to Starfish Early Alert, but those are the dates when you'll get specific prompts from counseling. And I was not great at using them initially. I just started for the first time this last semester. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And a lot of us have shied away from it because we say, well, we contact the students ourselves. But what this does is it provides a record for the student success team for that student's counseling. So, so the counselors can actually see, okay, well, it's not just this class that this student is having issues in all of these classes. So it's really important to have that paper trail, so to speak, there, even if you yourself are reaching out to the student. All right, so I don't know how much time it took, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and, unless there's, were there questions in the chat? I'm not hearing anything. So I'm gonna let Julie do her portion. And then we can always come back to questions at the end of the day.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh, and let me introduce Julie Preston Smith. Is what's your title now?
I mean,
go ahead.
Changes. So no problem. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie. I am the Interim Director of Counseling and Special Projects, which means I'm temporarily in this role, which I've been doing for 6 months or so now, and we'll probably have it through the fall semester. And then we don't know what's really happening after that, but that's kind of the story of what I've been doing at Fresno City the last 17 years or so that I've been there. I have normally been a counselor in the counseling department most of the time. So I'm coming today to talk to you a lot about some of the student support services that you might want to help your students get access to in the first few weeks of school. There are several workshops coming up. There's an Early Alert Flex Day on Friday if you wanted to hear more about Early Alert. Carrie did a great job describing that. But today I was just going to go over some of the basic things you might want to use with your students the first few weeks of school in case you really, come across a student that you know has a particular need, or you really want to make sure they access some support and you don't want to lose track of them in the beginning, which is what we're hoping you'll all do. So let me go into a couple things like that. And I know you've probably had a lot of the discussions coming up with what's happened this morning so far, but you do have, every student does have a student success team. And we have most of the student services on a success team, and all the faculty and instructors would really be on one of their pathway teams. So it's supposed to be a partnership between the instructional side and the student services side. But honestly, the instructors are the ones that see the students most of the time, or at least you will virtually see them. A lot of the students do have counselors that reach out to them, and some of them are part of special programs, so they're part of a cohort. and they could have counselors that really try to monitor them and follow them along. But the majority of our students are not involved in a cohort program like EOP&S or DSP&S or TRIO or things like that you may have heard of. So for 85, 90% of our students, they are considered one of our general students, and the person they connect with the most is their instructors. No matter how much counselors reach out to them, or they might have someone they talk to in financial aid or admissions and records, it's the instructors who see them on a daily basis. So we really want to connect our support services with our instructional side to make sure we're keeping track of our students and trying to get them whatever they need to be as successful as we possibly can make them be successful in the school. So that's what I'm trying to talk to you about today. I'm going to try to share. Let's see if it'll let me. Hopefully I did this right. Doesn't like do the right screen. Hold on. Okay. And of course I started at the end. So just kind of an overview. I don't even know. Carrie is our Guided Pathways guru on the campus. She is our lead for Guided Pathways. So I'm not sure if she's had anything to really share with you. But I'll start just a little bit. If you've heard of our Guided Pathways efforts, it's a
just Julie, just an FYI, I've done nothing. So it's all.
Well, I'm not going to go into detail because Guided Pathways
tomorrow, but you're go
okay.
For it. You're good.
You'll get more of Guided Pathways in general, but Guided Pathways is this big movement across the state of California, and it's all about redesigning some of our efforts at the colleges to be more student ready, to try to identify barriers and improve the learning for students and really try to get them what they need to be successful and complete and stay in school. So there's a huge movement we have for Guided Pathways. RAM Pathways is one component of Guided Pathways. And so this is what most people will probably see when they hear about pathways. And this is kind of what the students would see. So our employees, our staff, our faculty, everybody kind of would know there's more things going on with Guided Pathways behind the scenes, but what students kind of see is how they get introduced to the college and what it means to them. So the last year or two, we have taken all of our majors and all of our programs, and we have kind of sorted them, I guess is the right word, into 5 pathways. And those are the 5 at the bottom. We have arts, communication and language, business, culture, education and society, health and STEM, and tech and trades. And so these are not the divisions that we have as structures on the back side of our campus where instructors would belong to a division, and some people would be part of division, some would be part of student services. So this is just what students would see. And hopefully they're grouped with people that have, you know, similar interests. They might take similar courses together and they could have maybe similar career goals. So we've done the 5 RAM pathways. And then what we did with the pathways is we've had some sort of student success teams the last couple of years, but this is the first year we've switched just to having division-based success teams into pathway teams. So students are all going to be assigned into a pathway team based on their major. And so we'll have 5 pathway teams for the 5 different pathways, and they will get to access services and counseling support and even connections to financial aid or admissions and records or even the business office if they need to. They can still get that help through their pathway team. So for the rest of everybody who's not really heavily ingrained in teams every day, they can also, the easiest way is to refer a student to their pathway team, and their pathway team can kind of help them get whatever they need. If they know what they need in particular, they can go straight to financial aid or straight to admissions and records or straight to the business office or something like that. But if they're ever feeling like they don't know what to do, we can always refer them to their pathway team, and hopefully they can get connected with a counselor or someone who can at least give them quick information about what they might need if they don't really need to see a counselor. We are trying to be very intentional. So our goals are to really reach out to the students that we think.
Did Julie freeze? She froze.
She may, yeah, she froze.
I'll let her know via text, and then I could, is there anybody, I know I could talk a little bit to this, but if there's somebody else who is able to
necessarily come to us when they need to come to us. So students who maybe have failed a class, students who are in math and English. And my internet connection says it's unstable, but hopefully I'm still moving along.
You're good now. You were gone
good.
for a minute.
So trying to get to students when they need us, and we're looking at students who are maybe
You're gone again, Julie. I'm gonna give her a second. I'm gonna text her. So I think what Julie was gonna say was she's gonna be looking at students who are the pathway teams. I was calling them success teams. Sorry, we changed the names, but the pathway teams are really gonna be focused on our most disproportionately impacted groups of students. So they're actually gonna be looking at data and using that data to intentionally reach out to students who are in those groups that need more supports generally. So they're going to be more intrusive and intentional. So Julie says she's sorry, she's going to come back, but continue on without her for now. So I'm not sure what she was going to say after that. Let me see what we had next on our agenda. I think that was Marianne, right? Marianne, are you ready to go? Okay, cool. So let's go ahead. Do you need a screen share, Marianne? Marianne is going to be talking next about your classroom as racialized spaces.
Okay, yeah, good morning. And I did just join you, so I didn't get to listen to everything that you've been listening to today. I know that I think you've been here since 9 o'clock. I am happy to join you to speak about the classroom as a racialized space. There is a scene from the TV show This Is Us where Jack, the white adoptive father of Randall, who in the scene is a teenager, he's African-American teenager in the scene. And Jack says to his African-American teenage son, "When I look at you, I don't see color, I see my son." And Randall says back to him, "Then you don't see me." And this is a powerful scene that illustrates the importance of race. All spaces are racialized spaces. Our social identities, which include race and ethnicity, influence our experience and our interactions with others in the grocery store and in the post office and in this space right now, and in our classrooms. So in the classroom, faculty social identities are going to influence our experience in the classroom, our preparation for the classroom, our preparation of our curriculum, our design and implementation of that curriculum, and our interaction with our students. And then, of course, also the social identities of our students are going to influence their experience of that curriculum and their interactions with us and their interactions with each other. In April of 2015, 25-year-old African-American named Freddie Gray was killed by some Baltimore police officers. And following that death, there were some peaceful protests and also some insurgencies in the city of Baltimore. Not long after that, so in the spring of 2015, our researchers conducted a series of focus groups with African Americans, and Carol might have mentioned that. I think that she had told me she was going to share the link to that data. And so I would like Susie to put up the quote that I pulled from that. So this is something that a student said in one of those focus groups. He said, "We don't come from the neighborhoods that they, faculty, come from. When something like Baltimore happens, we actually feel that. That's part of what we are in our being. So how could I not be thinking about this during my physics test? Unfortunately, it was business as usual for everyone else. So where that affected the whole community of people, we're walking in the classroom with this on our shoulders. I might not necessarily be thinking about my homework or something like that. But if we had teachers who cared about those things, then they could keep us focused. They could say, hey, this was terrible. We can talk about this. And also, let's make sure you're doing good with your homework. So for most of us in the fall, our classrooms are going to be online and asynchronous, which means that we're not going to have the opportunity to walk into the classroom and say, hey, this was terrible. We can talk about this. And also, let's make sure that you're doing good on your homework. Doctors Harris and Wood from the Center for Organizational Responsibility and Advancement, CORA, warn us that we ignore the diversity that we don't see. So when race and ethnicity is invisible, which it might very well be in our online classrooms, we're less likely to practice being racially equity-minded, keeping in mind that all spaces are racialized spaces. So that includes the online classroom. Our social identities are going to influence our experiences and our actions. So as a cisgender heterosexual white woman, I may be more situated to notice sexist remarks, for example, in an online discussion board. I say may because I'm reminded of an experience that I had in graduate school where the professor was getting ready to turn back our papers. And he said, before I give back the papers, I want to make some general comments. And he started to go on and on about the use of sexist language in our papers and being mindful of the use of sexist language in our papers. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm getting a message that says there's a lot of sound in my background, like a machine is running. Okay, let me see if I can get that stopped. Just a second. I have to get my husband's attention. I'm back. There was vacuuming going on in my background. So I was sitting there wondering whose paper he was talking about, right, that had all this sexist language in it. And then he gave us back our papers, and it was my paper that he had marked up all of this sexist language in there. And this also reminded me of an interaction that I had with a colleague who caught me in the hallway, and she stopped me and she said that she had attended one of Ray and my syllabus workshops, and she wanted to thank me for that. And she commented that she had really reflected on her syllabus and the disproportionate impact that maybe some of her policies had. And then she added, and I'm an African-American woman, like I should know better than that, than some of these things that I had in there. In his book that you see my summer reading in my background there. So one of the books that I read was Dr. Kende's How to Be an Anti-Racist, he reminds us that it's difficult to be surrounded by racist ideas and that make up this structural racism, and not to internalize some of those ideas, right? And so I have also internalized some of those sexist ideas, and we need to be mindful about that. And again, we bring that with us into our classrooms. So we must be intentional to approach the classroom, whether that is a face-to-face classroom or an online classroom, as a racialized space. We all bring our social identities to it. Our students do, and we do too. So this means that we need to consider the disproportionate impact that the so-called two pandemics have, right, are having on our students of color. So the COVID-19 and systemic racism. There's more illness and death due to COVID-19 in communities of color, and these are our students, right, who may be impacted by illness or deaths in their families. COVID-19 crisis has left many unemployed, and the flip side of that, others working extra hours in conditions that might jeopardize their health and the health of their families. The shelter in place means that our students are taking classes online, right, most of them. Most of our students have never taken an online class before. Carol maybe shared that data with. So some of them do not have a quiet place to do their schoolwork. Many of them are sharing a single device with multiple family members, including their children who are doing online work at the same time. They might have limited data and limited access to software that they might need for your class. So we need to be providing authentic care, which includes being race conscious. We need to work on establishing and maintaining meaningful relationships with our students. We need to check in often and early with our online format. We need to be intrusive, responsive, and reassuring, right? So for example, we need to find out what our students' needs might be, their digital needs might be. Maybe they need MiFi or they need an iPad. And then we need to follow up and find out, you know, did they actually get what they needed? We might find out that a student is food insecure, and so then we're going to tell them about the food pantry, and then we need to follow up and make sure that they actually got those needs met, and not just assume that they knew where to go and what to do and how because they're trying to navigate this whole new world of online, which is very new for most of them. If we notice that a student is not completing discussion assignments, this is really quite common. We need to try to find out why, because the why might be that they're concerned about their writing, they're concerned about stereotypes, and again, in an online format, we need to be mindful of the invisibility of their social identities, but that doesn't mean that it's not impacting their ability to complete the course, right? They're still might be concerned about how they are perceived by their classmates and by you as their instructor. So we need to create a classroom space. We need to create classroom norms that are going to allow us to address any micro abuses that might occur. We need to be mindful to deliver messages that are going to minimize rather than heighten any kind of stereotype threat that might be occurring. A female student of mine told me that in her science class, the instructor frequently would tell the whole class frequently, half the class is gonna fail. And she said it wasn't just once or twice, like he brought it up frequently. Half of you are going to fail. This is a really hard class, and half of you are going to fail. And she told me that she credited her ability to stay in that class to our discussions. I teach psychology, so in our discussions about self-efficacy and stereotype threat. And she just kept that in mind every time he would say that, because otherwise she said that she didn't feel, she felt like he was kind of speaking to her, like, you can't do this, right? As a female student in this science class. So we need to create environments that value their social identities and promote their success. For the first 2 weeks or so of every semester, I always make a point of wearing my rainbow bracelets. I don't know if you can see them, but I put them on today. And I've had several LGBTQIA plus students thank me for that. One particular student came up to me after class and she said that on the first day of class, she's always very anxious to walk into the room because she doesn't know if that instructor is going to be safe or threatening, right? Is going to be accepting or rejecting of her. And she said when she saw my bracelets, that anxiety immediately just lifted. So that's really made me think about well, first of all, you can't really see my bracelets on Zoom, so I'm not sure how I'm going to achieve that in my online classes, but also got me thinking about what's the equivalent of the rainbow bracelet for our students of color. What's the equivalent of my rainbow bracelets for our students who are religious minorities? And so I've been really kind of like pondering that. One of the things that I've been playing with is the use of the green screen. So I've made a couple of videos now that my students will see using my summer reading, so they can see that I read How to Be an Anti-Racist. Let's see, I've been playing around with it. So I have some other ones that I've found that I like this one. I'll probably write a welcome message. I'm sorry, I'll record a welcome message that I'll send out to my students using that as my background. So I've been playing around with that. I've also been, those of you who know me know that I am always looking at my syllabus. So I'm always working on things that I can add to my syllabus. And I shared my syllabus with you all a few weeks ago. If you click on that link now, you're going to see that I've made some changes to it. So it's not done yet. And I have added what I hope are some norms that will allow me to address any microabuses as they arise. Because as I looked at the syllabus that I shared with you, I didn't really see that in there. So I have added some language. I didn't bring it to share with you, but I did add some language around that. And I'm certainly open to any ideas that you might have for ways to do that. And then I wanted to, my green screen is about to fall down. My husband just said, I made a little grumbling sound, and he's going to come over and fix it. I will put in the chat, and I see 15 things in the chat, but I have not been looking at the chat at all. Oh, that works. Thank you. Doctors Wood and Harris from Cora produced I think it was a 1-hour webinar on microaggressions in the online format. I think they did that in April when everybody was going online. And so I will put the link to that if you have not had the opportunity to watch that. I'll put the link to the taped version of it in the chat for you. And one of the great things about watching the taped versions is you can fast forward through things and put them on 1.5 speed, and an hour seminar doesn't take you an hour to get through. Okay, there it is. And so, like I said, there were I think 15 things in the chat. I didn't read any of them because I was focusing on my presentation.
We were talking about your husband's vacuuming.
What's that?
We were mostly talking about the vacuuming.
Oh, okay. Are there any questions or comments?
So Marianne, you're not the only one who, this has been, they've been quiet today. We haven't, I haven't gotten questions. So just FYI, but I love that you shared in the chat the Luke Wood and I'm blanking, Frank Harris.
Frank Harris.
Yeah, that webinar on addressing microaggressions in an online format, because I think that's going to be challenging for most of us, is adapting to the online and trying to figure out. And the support guides are going to talk a little bit about this on Wednesday. That's one of the topics they're going to address, is the norming and how you deal with, if things come up in discussions, or, if there's abusive language or things like that, how you address.
Yeah, what's good about that webinar is they give concrete examples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it is very helpful. I'm going to rewatch it. I saw it when it came out, but I'm forgetting already their suggestions.
Mm-hmm. And they also give a framework that they call the Raven framework. So they provide a framework to intervene.
Yes. Thank you so much, Marianne. We really appreciate it. We've tapped you quite a bit this summer, and you're always willing, and that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So now we are going to go back to Julie. Julie back with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. So we're going to have Julie pick up where she left off. I think, Marianne, you'll need to unshare.
I may not even do the PowerPoint. That might have been what caused the crashing of the world. Maybe that's Susie.
That's Susie.
Okay, got it.
So that was our example, just to, if you have never had any technology glitches, then you are blessed. And I hope that everyone will just have patience and grace with their students as much as you have with us, because I don't think I've ever lost my full internet connection in the middle of a Zoom meeting, and I Zoom probably 8 or 9 hours a day, and that was just the weirdest thing, to lose complete internet connection, and then I couldn't even get cell service on my phone to call in. So even people that do this for a living sometimes struggle with technology. So I do hope you all have grace and patience with your students, and hopefully they'll have grace and patience with you, because unless you never have anything ever happen unfortunate in your life, it's going to happen to you as well. So maybe set that stage in the very beginning, that everyone will be kind and generous in giving to each other. But so yeah, I'm not even going to try the rest of the PowerPoint, but I did want to share with you how students can access their pathway team, and then just some resources you can refer students to right off the bat, if that is helpful to you at all. So we have a new website that is still kind of under construction, I can tell. But the website is fresnocitycollege.edu/pathways. And so if you went and Googled pathways on our website, or just search pathways, you'd find it also. But we have a Ramp Pathways webpage, and it just kind of explains to the students that, we've now got 5 pathways, that all students are assigned to a pathway team, and kind of what that is. And if they click on their pathway, even if they don't even know what pathways there is, but if they click on one that they're interested in, they would be referred to more information about their pathway. This is the business pathway. We're supposed to have photographs on here that hopefully are coming any day now. If not, they don't have them right off the bat. But at the bottom of every one of those pathway pages is how to talk with a counselor. So if they're brand new, have never been to the college before, and they want to talk to someone about coming to the college, they would go to our new students section, which is our college relations office. And they have an expertise in bringing people on board to the campus and helping them matriculate and getting all of their paperwork and details done. But otherwise, they would go to the Starfish link, and they're going to make their appointments that way, or they can call if they don't want to go online to do it. But when you access Starfish, maybe I should show you what it looks like too. if you access Starfish from different places, you can get to different things in Starfish. But students who want to make an appointment, they can either make them by their success team or by their pathway team, or they can make them with just the general counseling department. So they would just log in, click in, and it shows their network in there. So if they're in your class, they're going to see your name, and right now not a lot of faculty and staff that aren't in pathways teams yet have anything really in Starfish, but they see a connection in Starfish, whoever they're connected with. So they see a list of their instructors who they're connected with. If they're part of a special program, they'll see that in Starfish as well when they sign in. And if they're part of a pathway team, that's one of the first things they're going to see, so they can make an appointment with their pathway team, and they'll just click them through and they'll be able to make an appointment that way. They don't have appointments the first week of school. Everybody's just on massive drop-in, so they would have to either call that same day or just get served that same day if they had significant questions. So the number's here as well. They can either call, they can send an email request for something after hours. And we also have online counseling support services if they want to scroll down. There's another button too, but they can get online support, which is like an online chat service. So anyone who needs to access support, I would just send them to their pathway page. And if they're not really comfortable clicking through the buttons, they can always just go to the counseling page and they'll have a phone number they can call. But basically all the services the students are getting this year are virtual. They're going to be either telling them how to Zoom in, they're going to be helping them with the callback on the phone, trying to talk them through things on the phone. There might be doing email communications back and forth. But the goal is to not have students come to campus for anything necessarily if they don't absolutely have to. And if they do have to, they have to do it by appointments with social distancing, wearing a mask, all those kinds of things as well. So trying to make it as easy on them as possible. I did want to just share, this is a little bit more too, but RAM Ready is going on this week. So it's basically our new student welcome. And even if you have students that aren't new, it's a good resource for any of your students. And we wouldn't have even had to put it all online this semester if we were doing it face-to-face, but it's very convenient because you can link things now to your Canvas pages. You can send students a link to go do something if you wanted them to be involved in something. So it is easier to get students the resources they need with clicks now versus trying to make them go in person and do things. But if you wanted to refer anybody, or if you'd like to come look at the RAM Ready page, it is the same thing. It's Fresno City College /RAM Ready, or you could search for RAM Ready. But they have a welcome by Dr. Goldsmith. And then they have little self-paced tabs they can go through. There's one on what COVID is like and why we're practicing safety. But even these are all quick little videos that our student ambassadors have put together. And most of them are only 2 or 3 minutes long. But I don't know if it would show up. Maybe I'll show you a couple different ones. But this navigating online learning. So there is like the online learning through Canvas. You guys are going to see all those sorts of things. But this is like explaining to them what is their portal. And let me see if it'll play, because it gives them the links, but it shows them like a 2-minute, what is the Canvas, 2 minutes, how do I do Zoom? Just things that the ambassadors are sharing. So any students that are struggling with that, I'll show you something else too. They can maybe just go through these sorts of things on their own. The links are going to be up for probably a long time, but if students need those resources, you can just refer them to that as well. How to get to the library tutorial. It's just students kind of saying in 2 minutes how to access those services. There is one about how to get to the bookstore, how to use your business office, if you need help with current employment services, just all those sorts of things. And some of them have full 2-minute videos, and some of them are just here. Check out the links below. There is one on good habits, like being organized and reaching out to others and asking questions, that kind of a thing. The Get Connected is about their pathway team, where to go, or just left. So this is our introduction to pathways video, and then it tells the students about what are pathways, how they can get involved. And it tells them to join a live event, and then they're done. So the idea is that they can self-pace if they want to do whatever, but you could refer students to any pieces you wanted to. And what's nice is it's just a student with a 2 or 3 minute video at the most of explaining what something is to a student. Then there's live events going on this week, and they're all going to be recorded. So they will be posted after the events are going on. Right now, they would have had to sign up to get the Zoom links. They don't make them public. They're trying to avoid all the Zoom bombing. But there are live forums going on at different times this week. So questions about Canvas, tutorials on Canvas are going on. Asking other students about success strategies and navigating the college are going on certain days. If you have any questions about financial aid, those are going on at certain times this week. Each pathway team is doing some live forums, and they've invited the students in their pathways to come and meet their pathway team and just kind of go over some general information. There's one on library, there's one on instructors kind of telling them what they expect. If you want to know about DSP&S, they're doing live forums. Current Employment Center, the bookstore. There's a web advisor, how to use a web advisor, which needs a lot of help because it's not an easy thing to do on your first place. So if, you know, these are going on this week, but next week, if you have students that want to know more about any of these things, these will all be recorded and posted. And then the short little tutorials or 2-minute kinds of informational sessions will be there as well. So it's kind of exciting that we got all those ready. I mean, they must have made 30 videos, I think, to get students ready for school. Trying to do things a little bit differently right now, just because normally we'd be doing all this in person and we'd have people out on campus welcoming them and trying to make sure they were in the right place and knew where to go and what to do. So it's going to be a different environment right now. We're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. We're really afraid that we're going to, you know, lose students. Right now, in fact, this morning, probably one other thing to add to the Monday morning blues is we've had 3 of our workers call in sick. We've got students trying to ask questions about how to add classes. They have holds, they have prerequisite clearances. They have all these things they want to do this week. And I think there's about an 1.5 hour wait right now to have someone call you back and you know, get your counseling questions answered, which we don't like to make it that long, but it's just, you know, the demands are really busy right now. And before that, people would wait in line and they would work the lines and they'd get people to answer their questions quickly. And we'd have people out all over campus trying to, you know, help the masses. And it's just a different environment right now. So new ideas, new ways to get to the students, but we really do appreciate any instructors, any people from services and offices that will just reach out to the students and make sure they know what they're doing and that they're okay and they've taken care of whatever they need to take care of and they've got their questions answered, because it's an awkward time to even try to figure out what you don't know sometimes. So thank you. Thanks for putting up with my technology deficiencies this morning as well.
Thank you so much, Julie. Are there questions for Julie?
It is a quiet group, huh?
It is a quiet group. Well, not usually. Today they're quiet. They're probably tired.
It's a Monday morning.
Yeah. So Julie mentioned something I just want to reiterate, and I believe I've said this before. One of the things I started doing this last semester was just really, you know, I did things I'd never done before, and I'm not telling you to do this, but I gave students my cell phone number, and a couple students were calling me at various points. But really letting them know that if I wasn't able to do something for them, that I would find out who could. So I think that's, you know, part of what Julie was talking about with students waiting on the line, and, you know, sometimes there's just not people there. So if you can, you know, in any way you can help, and it's hard when you have a lot of students, but if you can just let them know, hey, I'm here, and if I can't help you, I will find out who can help you. That goes a long way for not losing students, I think. Any questions about anything that was presented today? Or follow-up? We still have about 15 more minutes, and we won't drag it out if there aren't any questions, but certainly if there are, we want to give you the opportunity to ask those questions. Yeah, Marianne.
I just wanted to say that I would advise getting a Google Voice number rather than giving out your personal cell phone number. It's really easy to do.
Okay. I will do that. Everybody else, you can do that too.
All right, Brenda has a question.
Yes, Brenda. Oh, are you asking Flex Day? I see in the chat. Is that what Brenda? Is that what you were going to ask about?
Yes, I'm so sorry if I missed it, but I'm wondering, I was trying to open up the the sign up? Do we sign up for like a presentation at every hour? Then we report what we went to? How does that work?
Susie, do you want to go over that? Do you want me to talk about hours and you can talk about
flex obligation in the
hours?
contract, and then
Okay, so I'll talk. Perfect. So the obligation is 5 hours in the spring, or sorry, 5 hours in the fall, 5 hours in the spring. So 10 hours for the full year. We have on flex day, you want to do a total of 5 hours each flex day, or what's called flexible flex. This year was unusual in that there were trainings over the summer. If you did one of those trainings, that can count as your flexible flex for the full year. But we do still encourage you to attend those sessions if there's things that, you know, would be helpful or you're interested in doing. So, and also throughout the semester, there's various talks, as long as it's not taking place during normal work hours. So if it's a non-duty day and you're doing something, you can count that as flexible flex. So you can't count it if it's, you know, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday on work days. So I'm going to let Susie talk about the registering and recording and all of that, because this is all
it's brand new to me too. So as Carrie said, you're required to 5 hours. Through a lot of revision over the years, we found that the sessions are each 1 hour and 15 minutes. So actually all that you need to attend to meet your flex obligation are 4 of the sessions. An hour and 15 minutes is not too short and not too long to cover the material your presenters are presenting. So I put the link to the flex registration in the chat. And you don't need to register, because being online, it's eased a lot of our capacity issues, silver lining. But we encourage you to register, because you do need to report that out to your deans, and the email that you get can be used for that. We have, it's a smaller flex day than normal. Usually we have about 30 different presenters, but flex day is usually a peer-to-peer. So faculty, although flex is open to everybody, but it's primarily for faculty. It's geared towards faculty. And I lost my train of thought. We usually have 17. We have 17 peer-to-peer. Faculty usually train other faculty. They submit a proposal, and then the professional development committee goes through and reviews and scores this proposal, and that's how we get our calendar going online, and faculty being having an undue burden placed on you, where many of you had to learn how to teach online. So we reached out to the communities. We have lots of community presenters. Bitwise will be there, the Sikh Institute, West Care. But also there's a couple, Su Yang, who's in the room, our brand new instructional designer, who's got a couple of fabulous sessions for those last minute things that you need to know before the start of the fall semester on Monday. And Sue, I just want to tell you right now, I'm checking the numbers, and your sessions are the highest registered for. So you're going to have a pretty large group. I think that's it. Oh, Carrie said flexible flex, and that's an option, but flexible flex does need to be approved first by your dean, correct? It's not something.
That is correct. So yeah, you have to submit it, and it's usually prior to the flex day, and so the deans should send out. I can't. Tabitha sent, our dean sent something out this morning. I'm not sure. She might have explained it. I haven't read the email thoroughly, but usually it's you have to submit by Thursday what you're doing for flexible flex. And then, yeah, the paperwork's kind of a pain. I don't know how they're going to do the paperwork they did have a digital one last year. So that will probably come with lots of questions for you. I won't try and explain that now. I'm hoping it's better than it has been in the past. But I think one of the questions I had, Susie, was if the registration is online, we're not linking that to any forms at this point. Like you're just saying the email can show your dean that, but we haven't linked it to paperwork in terms of filling out that flex.
No, we haven't, although
Yeah.
we could. The way I've set it up, it could be, and I'm arguing pretty strenuously for that, to
Yeah, it would be
eliminate
nice because it's,
that one unnecessary step. If you
yeah,
just forward the email on, and then the division classified professionals could compile that and send it to that would work for the chancellor's state chancellor's reporting.
and it would be awesome because right now it's a little better the past couple of years, but in the past we've had to like write these detailed descriptions of what we're planning to do and what we did. And so now if you're doing the regular flex sessions, you can just click on the boxes rather than putting descriptions in there, which is nice.
So Stephanie, the general session is not required for everybody. And usually in the spring we do a general session, but the professional development committee felt it was important. Actually, it's not going to be so much a training session as a talking session. We felt it was important that faculty had a place and a space to discuss the insanity that happened at mid-March and how we all rushed and just did these incredible things and the incredible stress it put on us. So that's what that's going to be. It's not required, but we highly encourage it. You'll get President Goldsmith will start us off, but then we're putting everybody into breakout rooms. And if you notice by the description, we provide you with some guided questions. We just want to give you a chance to talk with your colleagues, cross interdisciplinary, and within your discipline. So, and convocation is not a part of flex. Attending convocation is mandatory for you, does not count towards your flex obligation.
Yeah, so convocation is a duty day.
Yes, it does count towards the 5 hours. Yes, it does. You're right, Keith. And also, if you've been looking at my emails, we've been doing the Black Minds Matter facilitated discussions that fell right into Flex Day. So if you've been attending those and you're getting something out of them, that is one of the Flex sessions. So you watch the webinar Thursday. Well, you don't have to watch it on Thursday. You can watch a recording of the webinar and then come to the discussion at 1 o'clock on Friday, and that would count towards your Flex.
You can't watch it Thursday because it's during convocation.
Exactly. And you'll be watching Ibram. So Professor Kendi, sorry, Professor Kendi. Talking like he and I are on first name basis. And one thing that's good, you don't have to sign in. I'm thrilled about that because I'm not going to get 70, 80 paper sign-in sheets that I have to go through and forward to all your deans. All that we ask is that we sign into the Zoom, which will be included, a direct link to the session will be included in your reminder emails, is that you use your full name so that we can accurately count you as being there.
So Brenda asked about listserv emails. And so far, like, how do you know if you've been on listserv emails? The main ones for faculty are the professional development. So you should be getting them from Susie. The Office of Instruction, which I don't think we did get one maybe a week ago about blanking on what it was about. I know on just information for faculty from the Office of Instruction. I'm totally blanking.
It was Don's guidance thing.
Don's guidance, yes, thank you. Also, there are the division listservs. So, and we did get Humanities got one from Tabitha this morning. But if you're in another division, your dean should be sending out an email. If not today, then shortly. And then you will be getting one this week from your department about your department meetings that happen. So, and I'll just quickly, since we have a couple minutes, talk about convocation, what generally happens and what
one second about the
Susie.
listservs. Yeah. So once you're hired, you're put into our system colleague, and the listservs, the mail all lists is what we call them here at Fresno City, are generated from that. So if you are not getting these mail alls, there's 4 different mail alls. There's the campus-wide mail all, and then there's ones for specifically for faculty only, for classified professionals, and for management. If you're not getting that, put in a help desk ticket to technology support services, because something could have happened with the download. Maybe you weren't imported correctly. I'm concerned that that Michaela isn't getting them because she still has a Clovis Community College email address. And I keep trying to remember to include you on those mail lists. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it was that there just haven't been that many that gone out. So if you didn't get the specific ones that I mentioned, then probably you are not on the listservs. But it might be that a lot just haven't gone out yet as well. Convocation day. So really quick, in the last couple minutes, this Thursday, we should be, as I mentioned, we usually don't get anything until Wednesday or so. But I believe it starts at 9 o'clock, I want to say, this year. Usually they start a little earlier with breakfast. Carla mentioned there might be burritos. And then it goes until about, it ends after Kendi's, I believe, but then there's a training session that's after that. And then the department meetings will set up. So generally it's an all day, and there's things throughout the day. So you'll have a division meeting, a department meeting. It'll start with the president in the morning giving college updates. We have Professor Kendi coming at lunch, or not coming physically, unfortunately, but via Zoom. That's right before the lunch hour. So depending on when your department schedules and whether or not you still need online training, that day could end as early, I think, as 12:30, but might go longer depending on when your department meetings are. Any other questions in the last couple minutes?
And I'm involved at the very last minute in the convocation planning as of about 7:30 this morning. I was unexpected. So I have a sneak peek at the agenda, and after your division meetings, they're going to be holding I believe it's not mandatory, but if you're interested in some of the return to campus updates, they'll be having 2 general sessions about that, one specifically geared towards faculty and one towards another one towards classified professionals. I'll miss the breakfast too, Juanita.
Are we getting burritos? I'm not eating burritos right now, but I can drink. Yes, so Keith is underscoring attendance is mandatory on convocation. So if you do not show up, you need to have a good reason, and you need to let your dean know, and or you do they'll dock your pay if you're a no-show. So it is officially, that's when our contract date starts, is Thursday for faculty. For non-faculty, you're not required, but you're welcome. Right, Susie?
To convocation, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome.
So Brenda asked about the contracts. Yes. And I can't remember. So the district sent out an email maybe 2 days ago, 3 days ago, with links to our contracts. Keith, can you speak to that?
Yeah, they should be coming this week. New employees, it might be a little bit of a lag, but look for an email from Paula Lopez.
And I will tell you, because we have 2 new people in my area who are panicking, have been emailing me. I panicked for the first, probably 4 or 5 years that I worked here. Every year, it was always, you think it's not going to come, and it's this panic, but they always come. I eventually. So don't worry if you haven't gotten it, but you could follow up with Paula if you have not. Paula, Paola. What's her last name?
I'll put her email in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
It's pronounced Paula, though.
Paula. Okay. Thank
you. Michaela has a question about tracking equity training each semester and reporting that.
Good question.
Ray?
Yeah.
Do we have a plan?
Say that again, sorry.
Tracking the equity training each semester? and reporting on that?
So I'm not sure if I'm following, but how are we reporting?
Who,
Is that the
so
question?
how do they track their equity training each semester? I'm thinking of Cora, because you can pull reports on the Cora training,
Oh, I'm
correct?
sorry. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I was understanding the question. For Cora, we have a participant user report that we can run from our website through Cora. That's one way for tracking. With other activities, they're essentially ongoing based on RSVPs. Like if we do webinars, for example, we have RSVP list, and that's another way of tracking.
So eventually we'll have Cornerstone, which we can track everything there, right, Susie? But for now,
Yes, as soon as I'm done with this, that's my next thing I go on to.
Yeah.
Once I get past this week.
I know Susie is Wonder Woman, I'm telling you. But you keep track of your own, for any professional development you're doing. So not just for equity. And there's not anybody who's, it's not like you're being monitored to, that you have to validate and verify all that. For Flex Day you do. But for when you're looking at professional development for, as if it's counting towards your 5 hours a week that you're required by contract to do, we don't make people turn in reports. So you talk about it during your tenure. You want to keep track of everything, and your tenure committee will probably talk to you about this, because you do want to report on it in your tenure evaluation, and then also in 4 years, I think it is, after you have tenure, you can apply for sabbatical. You want to keep track of all that professional activity. Yeah, Keith, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I just for the Cora trainings, for example, you do want to keep your certification, the completion certificates, because not only are we supposed to get paid for taking the trainings, but you also do get CEUs, continuing education units, which help you advance in the salary columns, and those completion certificates you will need to submit to the salary advancement committee in the spring, so that you can get moved over in the columns possibly, or so, at least so you can get credit for it. So yes, do keep track.
Yeah, definitely. And for Cora, that's one where we do have an agreement with salary advancement. So if something specifically says, the IDEA Summit, we had to postpone it this year, but that's another one that can count for salary advancement. Something I do for tenure, I didn't do it my first few years, and it made my life a lot harder when you're sitting down at the end of the fall semester and you're writing your tenure evaluation. You have to try and remember all the things that you've done. So, and if anything comes up, there's many times where I've had to refer to my CV. I keep a running CV. So if I'm participating in something, I just add it on to that list. Just keep it, keep a file and keep all that stuff in one place so you can easily access it for those things.
And I just want, so Keith mentioned Cora and CEUs. Cora is now is its own accrediting body, so they're the ones offering the CEUs. So that has to go through the salary advancement committee beforehand. It has to be approved beforehand. Ray and I spent many hours with Sandy Edwards on this, because they're not upper level CEUs any longer, because they're not being issued through Fresno Pacific. They fall into the other category.
Interesting. So does that mean that we have to petition the salary advancement committee before taking Cora?
Yes.
It seems to be that way, Keith. It's interesting because
that's a weird loophole.
It is. Frankly, it's crazy. We try to advocate for its approval, because Cora is accredited by one of the main bodies that accredits higher education institutions to be able to offer CEUs. So it's interesting that it didn't. Cora was not listed in a list of approved institutions, and mind you, this binder had to be dusted off when it was open. So that's what it is right now.
That sounds familiar. You still get, we still have the pay agreement, right?
Yes.
We're working on that right now. The pay agreement for taking the training.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on that right now with our budget technician. What we used to do before is offer the stipend for all trainings. You could take all trainings, get compensation. In anticipation for increasingly scarce budgets in the next fiscal year, we're trying to take inventory of what we can offer. So that's why if you see a flyer go out, there won't be new information about the compensation. What I'm advocating for is at least one.
There's a couple more questions in the chat. Sally, thank you. Sally said she'd send emails to anybody who did not get Dawn's email. She'll forward it. So put your name in there and Susie will email it. Martina asked about the Equity Academy does not count for flex, right? And so I want to address that, something I did not address. You're getting paid to attend this academy, so you can't count it as flex. So that's correct, Keith, right? If you're getting paid for something, you can't count as flex.
Yeah, that's why you can't count anything that you're doing during normal contract hours. Yeah. I mean, the exception is the flex day, which we created so that you would have a set space to do this and get it over with.
Right. Did I miss anything in the chat? Any other questions? Because we're out of time. So I'm going to do this again tomorrow, but I just have to thank this team, especially Susie. Oh my gosh, this woman worked. Ray and Susie and I were emailing each other at 9 o'clock yesterday morning, Sunday morning, trying to pull this all together. She has done so much to pull this together. So thank you, Susie. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Wonderful job. All right, so we'll see you all and let you go, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And I was going to say what we were talking about, and now I'm blanking. Susie, do you have that off the top of your head what the tomorrow's title is?
Yes, I do. Hold on. Tomorrow is supports for success, both for you and for your students.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
See you tomorrow.